Well, moisture did come to some parts of the state, but drought is persisting for a lot of producers. So, Amy, let's kind of generally talk about some relief programs that are out there for those producers who are dealing with drought.
So USDA has several programs that are available for different kinds of losses associated with drought. For example, for our livestock producers that have had to reduce the number of days of grazing or had to supplement with hay, the Livestock Forage program is available. The LFP differs based on the type of grass you have on your operation, but then also differs by the county that you're in because it's tied to numbers of weeks in drought and how deep that drought was. So if you're in western counties in the state that have had multiple weeks of deep drought, there's a different payment rate for those programs than in other parts of the state that have had multiple weeks of drought, but maybe not as intense as some of those other counties. So the producers just need to talk to their county FSA office to find out about what that payment rate is for their operation. The other thing is that a lot of our insurance programs are going to be really critical documentation right in this period of time. Document losses quickly, communicate early for those of you that have insurance on operations. And that's documentation is going to include not only what you see of the loss, but reporting and having those adjusters come out and document the losses as well to determine what the payment will be. Again, that documentation is really critical for other reasons as well as we get into tax season, and USDA has a right, even under self-reporting, to ask for documentation at any time. So that's really, really important. Another area that producers can be thinking about is the consequences this is going to have going into the future. As you said, we've had some rain in certain parts of the state, but this has certainly affected hay cuttings in the state. It's also affecting kind of grazing going through even into the further months, and it's affecting soil moisture for crops. So already planning ahead for that next crop season for the consequences in 2023 is really important as well.
And you're also getting some questions related to another program that is, well, related to drought as well. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've gotten a lot of questions about the expansion of the emergency assistance for livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish. It's also called ELAP. The acronym does not match the name, but producers are asking about the transportation cost aspect of this program. ELAP was expanded in recognition of some of the drought disasters that were happening across the country to allow producers to get some offset for the additional transportation cost for bringing in hay this year. Because drought is so expansive across the country, people are having to go further to get hay, and it's really costly to do that as you get out to 800 or 900 miles away versus 50 or 60 miles away for your hay sourcing. What producers will need to report, again, good documentation, is what kind of hauling distance they had last year, how many bales of hay they had to purchase last year, and how that compares to this year. The county level has a set transportation rate that they're going to use for producers that are eligible for this. So you'll need to document your transportation rate last year. They have the transportation rate they're going to use for this year, and they'll use that to estimate what that cost offset is if someone's eligible for the transportation reimbursement program.
And in just a couple of days, you're actually going to have a webinar about drought assistance, right?
Absolutely. We're going to address some of these very questions. We're going to have a Mesonet update of drought outlook. We're going to have some update on hay usage and grazing and strategies to reduce hay needs and supplementation on the operation for livestock producers. We're also going to have a market outlook for livestock markets as we're thinking about selling cattle, but then also buying cattle in the not too distant future. And then we're going to talk about these drought programs and the tax implications.
Alrighty, thanks, Amy. Dr. Amy Hagerman, Ag Policy Specialist here at Oklahoma State University. And if you'd like a link to the information about that upcoming webinar, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.